Hey, this is Nick, the Mining Book Guy. Today I've got a special presentation. This is on Sarama Resources. It's SWA on the venture, and I own shares in this company. It's one of my best ideas as a small exploration, gold exploration stock in West Africa, with most of the projects in Burkina Faso. Uh, Full disclosure, I own shares. I'm biased. I will try to be as factual as possible, but I do get enthusiastic about these things, and I really want to prove to you that this is one of the best companies that I've been able to find, and I would love to find more companies like this, but it's hard to find one that checks all of my boxes. But to start off with, I do want to talk about some of the weaknesses. Oh, before I get into that, just be aware that all of the resources I'm presenting will be available at ceo.ca. There's an article link if you're at my YouTube page. Make sure you check that out either now or at the end of the presentation. So, in terms of negatives, we're going to go through a couple highlights. So, even though I really like the management team, I do feel that they're kind of poor on the marketing side. And at the same time, they're based in Perth, Australia, but it's listed on the TSX. So they're not. That's not really a bad thing per se, but they're kind of out of the loop in when it comes to Canada, and I think that's one of the reasons there's a lack of awareness about the company. But they also don't spend much on marketing. So I guess I'm kind of self-appointing myself as helping them with marketing, even though I have no relationship with the company besides owning a lot of shares. On the positive side, though, the management team is behind the discovery of the 22 million ounce Moto Gold deposit. So this should have been presented a little more clearly, but Moto Gold deposit is actually Kibali in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is the flagship deposit for Randgold Resources, and it's also partially owned by AngloGold Ashanti. I mean, this is a world-class deposit discovered by a world-class team. Basically taken from discovery to feasibility by Andrew Dinning, Jack Hamilton, Paul Schmid. All of them were on that core team. They're on the core team of Sarama. That's what initially got me excited about this company when I realized that they were involved. And even better, management owns 24% of the company. That's very rare. Even if management owned 5 or 10%, I would be pretty happy. But over 20%, that's excellent. I know that they participate in many of the placements. I know that in the last raise, which was a little difficult, they actually did the raise at 10 cents Canadian. At the time, the company was selling, was trading at 6.5 or 7 cents. So it was a huge premium. There's just a half warrant at 15 cents. I mean, they are looking out for shareholders. There's a lot of great major shareholders: Sun Valley Gold, Kinross Gold, Gold 2000 is in Switzerland. I know that there's plenty of accredited investors in Europe and other parts of the world. So there's a great shareholder base, good structure. I like all of this stuff. But we'll get into the longer term story, and I almost feel like it's a little bit of an accident that I've been able to buy so cheaply. But you'll understand why in a second. So you can see that the IPO, this was trading all the way up to above $1 Canadian back in 2012. Unfortunately, the gold price was affecting everybody at that time, but I think they got hit extra hard because in mid 2013 they announced a maiden resource of 1.5 million ounces. An excellent headline. Unfortunately, most of that resource was refractory, which means there's poor metallurgy. It's much more expensive to get out of the ground. And even knowing that, 300,000 or so were oxide near surface, ounces, but they got punished completely for that. The thing just kept tanking and tanking. You can see that there was actually huge volume here, but for the most part, there's very little volume. I'm going to zoom in for the 2 year, and this is where that huge volume came in. So it was tanking, dropping like a rock. I started buying, in the fall of 2014. And when it really got down here, 3.5, 4 cents, I bought some more. It was very fortuitous. And honestly, this is one of my luckiest purchases because literally on Thanksgiving Day in the US, they had a huge, blockbuster announcement, which we're going to look at right here. Sarama Resources and Acacia Mining, formerly African Barrick Gold, enter into earn-in arrangement in Burkina Faso. So African Barrick, everyone knows that name. Somehow, the fact that they changed their name to Acacia, I think that a lot of people in North America, they still don't even know that Acacia is a very important, borderline mid-tier senior producer in Africa with their core assets in Tanzania. I mean, they jumped into this, and this is their first major greenfields exploration in a totally different part of Africa, in Burkina Faso. And it's a great deal. I mean, Sarama at the time was trading for roughly cash. It was like 3 or 4 million market cap, and it immediately doubled. I honestly think it should have gone even higher, but basically there was a 15 million USD deal, 1 million USD upfront, 3.5 million per year for 4 years after that. And you can look at the details yourself. They can earn up to 70% and then buy an additional 5%. But a really, really important point I want to point out, because I think a lot of people who've looked at this or heard about it, they missed it. In those first 2 years, Acacia will spend 3.5 million USD each year for a total of 7 million. So first year is 2015, second year 2016. At the end of this year, Sarama still will own 50% of the company, and they are currently the operator. Many people have told me they don't like Sarama because they think Sarama is a minority shareholder in every project. They're not currently the minority shareholder here. They're in control. And really importantly, we want them to become a minority shareholder. If everything goes well, it means that Acacia wants to move forward because they think there's going to be home run potential. But if it doesn't, critically, I think that Sarama owning 50% of the project, and it could still be a good project, just not Acacia sized. It might be, a heap leach oxide project where 50 or 60,000 ounces per year produced for 8 or 10 years. That is completely possible, and at the current market cap, I don't think it's overvalued at all. So I'm going to bring up this point again, but I think the downside is very limited with huge upside. And we're going to look now at Acacia's presentation from the end of last year. This is the middle of the presentation focused on exploration. So you see greenfield programs in West Africa. Very important picture. This red is all Sarama's property, the JV with Acacia. There's purple and there's blue down here. These are two other earn-ins with Thor Explorations and Caden Resources. Acacia was very sneaky, and they got all three of these deals within a 12-month period. This is the South Houndé Belt. They're the only ones that of a big company that's doing this. I mean, and a lot of people don't realize it, but this belt is really coming into its own. Houndé project just got the green light as the flagship project going into construction for Endeavour Mining. Mana, flagship for SEMAFO, a 55 zone. That's Roxgold going into construction. I mean, this is totally emerging. Acacia's in the right position, and guess who's in the middle of it as the best looking one? It's Sarama. We're going to just go forward here to add some color here. So these are some great images. The MM zone and the MC zone that you see here, that was part of the initial 1.5 million ounce maiden resource. Everything else you see here, that is part of the updated 2.1 million ounce resource, which is pretty impressive, but that was just announced a month ago. Very importantly, that is only this box right here. There are roughly 10 other regional targets, and hopefully at some point during this 2016 program, we'll see some results here. So we've got two really exciting actions. One, I know that Acacia want to see more hits on the deep drilling program in Tankoro, because there really is potential for a lot of high grade gold deeper. But what if they hit on regional? And just as one example, Warankara, I think this is undervalued. It's very close to Bondi, which is one of Orezone's projects. There's a lot of potential here, but along with all the others, it's something that's just the market is not aware of at all. I think the company is fairly valued just on that project with plenty of upside, but I'm going to go through some of their other projects, and just so you're aware, you can see all of the news releases going back to 2011. I think they're nicely organized here, so you don't have to go to SADAR, but we're going to go through some of the projects outside of Burkina. This is one that Sarama no longer owns, but I wanted to make it clear that Sarama currently has about 400,000 USD in the bank, maybe a little more than that. This is just based on a conversation I recently had with Andrew Dinning, and they're roughly an 80,000 USD per month burn rate. So they're looking pretty good going into the summer, but we'll see if they need to raise money and or if they want to raise money because of a price spike, because maybe they'll have some great drilling results. But if there's any issues, they have roughly $500,000 worth of shares in Aureus Mining, which has the new Liberty mine here, and they also have a 1% NSR on this package. But I just wanted to make that clear that they were able to monetize their Liberia package. Similarly, they have a potential to monetize this property in Mali, and what's great here is Siribaya is part of Merrex. Oklo has made a discovery, they're ASX listed just above here, and Fekola is the flagship project going into construction for Beaty Gold. They haven't done work here, but I'm sure this could be monetized or have an earn-in. It's not being valued by the market. Now we're getting into Burkina. These Yungu projects here. This is around the Yuga mine, which now was sold by Endeavour to MNG Gold, which is a private Turkish company, which very likely wants to do more with this land than Endeavour did. So again, this is something that's not being valued by the market. I'm not sure if it's going to be monetized, but there's a much better chance because of that change. And now we're getting into the top 3 projects. I'd say this is number 3 on the list. This is actually from slides from Ausquest. SEMAFO is earning into Ausquest land here, and they've already found this Moro shear where they're doing work on. You can't see it here, but Sarama owns land directly north of here. They're consolidating land there. Very exciting. A lot of people aren't aware of it. I think that that's something you have to be aware of as additional value. But now we're going to get into the number 2 project after the Acacia JV, and that is the JV with Savary Gold. And I'm going to point out before I get into the details, I really like Don Dudek, the CEO of Savary. I think he does a fantastic job communicating and marketing the company. But without being too negative, I have to be clear, this is all that Savary has, and there's a very impressive 45-kilometer long trend. There's lots of great targets. I own some shares in Savary, but Sarama owns 35% of this JV. Now, I just explained a whole bunch of other projects that Sarama has, including the flagship project with Acacia. Savary doesn't have any of that stuff, and we're going to look very quickly. This is just the TMX website, which is similar to Yahoo Finance. Sarama here, this is their market cap. It's about 10 million Canadian. This is Savary. Their market cap is over 12 million Canadian right now. It does not compute to me. Like I can't understand why Savary is worth more than Sarama. And this is a message for people who are specifically invested in Savary and maybe really should look at Sarama more closely. I don't know if it's perhaps just not being aware of it, maybe ignoring it, or maybe they just don't understand what I've just explained. But if you own shares in Savary and you don't own any shares in Sarama, I want you to contact me and tell me why you wouldn't buy at least some shares in Sarama based on the valuations. And I mean, it doesn't mean that you need to sell your Savary shares, but it doesn't make sense to me. The only thing that's a possibility is this guy, Ross Beaty. He's a key strategic shareholder in Savary, but to me, it's not enough just having him involved to justify that, because again, I said that Sarama has a great management team as well. So I'm just making a point. I love Sarama on its own, but then on a relative basis, I really like it more than Savary, which I also own. It's just important to see that Sarama is undervalued in many different ways. And then finally, to kind of go full circle, Sarama just completed some drilling. Savary hasn't even started drilling till Q2, which is also something that Sarama has exposure to, but Sarama has this drilling. They have additional drilling that's going to go on this Acacia property, Acacia JV. This is 4.7 million roughly Canadian. It's a lot of money. So you've got lots of catalysts that are coming up that I'm really excited about. And finally, check out the CEO.ca Sarama page. I've posted a lot in here. There's actually, you can see that they have a nice chart, but this is just a lot of information. Some of it that overlaps with what I just presented, but it's another great resource. You can come here for Savary or for other companies as well. That's all I've got. I hope that I've at least convince you to take a closer look at Sarama. If not, consider buying shares. I think it's one of the best opportunities. And if you ever want to talk to me, send me an email at miningbookguy@gmail.com, or check out the CEO.ca article page for all of these resources, or write to me on the bottom of there. Or you can, hopefully run into you just on the main chat in CEO.ca. But thank you for listening, and also make sure to take a look at my West Africa video that I'll have a link up to, especially if you're new to this and this was a little overwhelming. Get a better glance at why I'm excited about West Africa for gold exploration in general. Again, this is Nick the Mining Book Guy. Thanks for listening. Bye.